thank you for your flexibility, Vice Chair, and including those last minute notes.
Oh, no problem.
As a kid, and I thought of it last night. We're like, wait a minute.
Sorry, I'm late.
There's Robert. Finally. No, just joking, Robert. You're one of the first. I was actually having computer problems up to about 10 minutes ago. I'm like, uh-oh, can't have computer problems today.
Exactly.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Nancy.
Morning, Nancy.
Good morning.
All right, it looks like we must have almost everybody already. We might be missing one of the committee members from yesterday. Let me just take a quick look here. Caroline just joined. I think we're just missing the chair.
Yes, the chair. Oh, there he comes.
There he comes. All right.
Chair, Vice Chair, it is 9 o'clock and we do have quorum.
Excellent. Well, thank you, everybody, for coming back for day 2 of the interviews. Much appreciated. Dee Dee, could you please take a roll call of committee members real quick?
Thank you, Vice Chair, Chair, and members of the committee. If you can stay here as I take roll call. Nina Arredondo.
Here.
Carolyn Ballard.
Yeah. Here.
David Calloway.
Here. Good morning.
Good morning. We do have Vice Chair Dudley. Joan Freeman.
Good morning here.
Good morning. Nancy Jackson.
Present.
Thank you. Wendy Miller.
Here, good morning.
Good morning. Chair Williams.
I'm here. Good morning.
Good morning. And Robert Yabes.
Present.
Thank you. We do have quorum.
All right, thank you. Hey, and before we begin, I'd like to take a minute to introduce a new MAG staff member by the name of Dylan Belmont. Dylan is the new administrative assistant and will be assisting us today. So welcome, Dylan. Congratulations.
Hi, thank you so much, Vice Chair. Yeah, I'm Dylan Belmont. Everyone, so great to meet you. Feel free to reach out anytime if you need anything.
Well, thank you, Dylan. Great to have you aboard here. Let's see. Are there any comments on the interviews we already had yesterday. All right, awesome. All right, so today we'll be hearing operating request. Again, as a reminder, the interviews are worth up to 15 points. Dee Dee, can you go review the list of agencies that are presenting today?
Thank you, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Today, we start off at 9:15 with Wyopis. They are requesting for volunteer drivers. Next, we have the City of Phoenix, who is requesting taxi vouchers, has a taxi voucher request. Northwest Valley Connect has a PM, a preventive maintenance request, a volunteer driver, and vehicle request. Foothills Caring Corps has a preventive maintenance, volunteer drivers request, and a vehicle request. And Valet Metro will be our last agency today. They have the right choice, East and West Valley, and a travel training request. Again, all of our requests today will be operating. Thank you.
Thanks, Dee. So we will actually go on a short break until 9:15 when we'll have Yopis start their presentation. So I'll see everyone in about 10 or so minutes.
Thank you.
Didi.
Yes, sir.
I didn't score the Valet Metro request for the east side. That we're still
Yeah.
doing that, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, we do have the representatives from WIOPAS in here. I'm going to bring them into the meeting.
Okay.
Hello, Brenda and Steve. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Yes, hello, good morning.
Hey, Brenda.
Hello,
Hey,
good morning.
Steve. I am Matt Dudley. I'm the vice chair of the MAG ad hoc committee. And I just want to go over a few things before we begin. To keep track of time, staff will indicate the time remaining at both the 5-minute and the 1-minute mark, which will be delineated on the screen. Also letting you know that this interview is also being recorded. And for your presentation, just please provide like an introduction, your names and titles of those presenting, a very brief overview of your agency, maybe 1 minute. But most importantly, please describe your project request and the needs. And then the remainder of the time will be open for questions from the committee. And with that, I will turn it over to both Brenda and Steve. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I am new with the Y. Steve's been here a while. I'm at the Ahwatukee Foothills Family YMCA. I am the director of our outreach program for Ahwatukee seniors, OPUS. We hope to expand that program and rename it Outreach Program for All Seniors. Steve, tell them what your title is and what your background is.
Yes, hello, my name is Steve Conrad with Valley of the Sun YMCA. I am the grant writer for the association, so that's all 13 YMCA branches, plus the camp and our programs that are in school sites as well.
So Ahwatukee has been providing services to our seniors for the last 15 years. And the program is such a benefit to the community and to our YMCA members that we want to expand it into 2 other locations. Christown and the Scottsdale area are the ones that we're focusing on. So all of our services are provided by volunteers. We have, before COVID, we had over 200 volunteers. Right now we're hovering around 150 volunteers, and they'll provide rides to a doctor's appointment, to go grocery shopping, to get your hair done, whatever the senior may need. The only qualifications are the seniors have to live in Ahwatukee, have to be able to get in and out of a car by themselves. Of course, we will assist them, but no lifting on our part. And they have to be 65 or older. We also have other components to the program besides the transportation, and that includes friendly visiting. We will either go to the senior's home and visit for an hour or so, or we can call them on the phone. We do safety equipment installations, and we also work with another organization that does that. We do socials to get the seniors out of their homes. We provide a monthly luncheon where we have, it's about an hour and a half. We'll have our volunteer drivers pick up the seniors, bring them to a specific location. We'll provide a lunch and some type of a program, and then take them home. We also do other things like dominoes and bingo and art classes. Our art therapy class is, we just started that about 3 months ago, and that's going very strong. But probably 60% of our services are transportation for the seniors. Do you have any questions, or should I just keep going?
No, let me ask the committee. Are there any other questions from the committee? Brenda, I do have a question though. Do volunteer drivers get any reimbursement for driving? How does that work?
They don't, but we do try to do, like we just had a big volunteer recognition. And so we provided dinner, and it was like nice and fancy. And we awarded, well, we did do a few gift cards for the drivers, but it was like a $20 gift card for those who drove over 1,000 miles, for those who drove over 2,000 miles, and those who drove over 3,000 miles. And we had one driver that drove 4,282 miles in 1 year.
Wow, that's a lot of miles.
That's a lot of miles.
Could you tell us what would be the effect of your program if you were not awarded?
Well, we wouldn't be able to expand into the other YMCAs.
Okay.
We just wouldn't be able to do that.
Are there any other questions from the committee?
Hi, Vice Chair. This is Wendy Miller from the City of Phoenix. I don't have a question as much as I have a comment. Since the volunteers don't get reimbursement, I just wanted to make sure that YMCA knows that that is a primary grant eligible activity through this program.
Oh, I did not know that. I will look into that.
So,
Good point.
you know, and you could go, you typically, not everybody bases it on this, but you can base it on the federal mileage reimbursement rate. So that would be a line item that you could add. So that is a typical volunteer driver program reimbursement.
Thank you. That is exciting. I did not know about that.
Thanks for the question, Wendy. Any other comments from the committee? All right. Brenda or Steve, anything you would like to add?
Just that we appreciate the collaboration, the program that you guys have, and we do need to take care of our seniors, and this just makes it a lot more, it gives us the ability to do that. So thank you very much.
And I would like to add that this year we did partner with two organizations, Duet,
Oh, yeah.
Partners in Aging and Benavia, and we based our expansion into Christown and Scottsdale on their needs for the time they have for requests and the amount of drivers they have. So that's one of the main reasons that we wanted to expand into those areas, because the need is so high currently.
They have seniors on a waiting list.
All right. All right. Well, thank you very much, Brenda and Steve, and thanks for coming in time today and telling us about your guys' needs.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Have a great day.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Hi, Chair and Vice Chair, members of the committee. Our next agency is the City of Phoenix with the Taxi Voucher Program.
All right.
Request.
Chair, Vice Chair, Dee Dee, this is Wendy Miller again. I just wanted to note for the City of Phoenix presentation that I'll be abstaining from the presentation questions and scoring.
Okay, thank you, Wendy.
Thank you.
I do not have anybody from the city of Phoenix in the waiting room yet, so I'll let you know when they are ready.
Thank you.
Dee, actually, that's a good point. When it gets to the Valet Metro, since I have to step out for, I mean, we're doing Valet Metro all together. It's ride choice and travel training. How's that going to work?
I can take over the questioning at that point.
Okay,
Chair, Vice Chair. Okay, thank you.
I will defer to you, Dee.
Okay, thank you.
This is Nancy, but we don't need to remove ourselves. We just need to abstain, right? If we're have a conflict.
Yes, you can abstain.
Nancy, this is Wendy. I think abstaining is
Okay.
just noting your abstention is perfect because it's virtual. It's kind of hard to
Right.
physically remove yourself. So
Perfect, thanks.
And I also just want to remind that the Valet Metro will be presenting on all of the applications together. So if you do, Nancy, for example, have a question about the West Valley, or if you have a question about the travel training, you're free to ask that. It's just for the East Valley you were abstaining.
Got it. Thank you.
Joan Freeman will be abstaining from Foothills Caring Corps and the East Valley Right Choice.
Thank you, Joan.
Chair Dee, this is David in City of Mesa. I'll also be abstaining from the East Valley Right Choice scoring.
Thank you, Chair.
Chair, Vice Chair, this is Robert Yabes. I'll be abstaining from the East Valley right choice.
Thank you, Ms. Yabes.
I might be next. This is Nathan Williams. I'll abstain from the East Valley right choice as well.
Thank you. Chair.
I guess I'm putting it on record. Chandler, East Valley.
Thank you, Nancy.
So can anyone ask a question about the East Valley Right Choice? I guess it's just going to be.
Because we've been full of questions this
Yes,
whole time.
exactly. Keep up the good work, everybody.
Yeah, you're doing such a good job. I don't, you know, what's there to do?
All right, I do have Albert Crespo from the city of Phoenix in the waiting room, so I'm gonna admit them into the interview room. Hi, Albert, can you hear us?
Good morning, everyone.
Hey, Albert, how's it going?
Not too bad. How's it going?
Good. So I'm Matt Dudley, as you know, I'm the vice chair of the committee. Just like to go over a few things before we begin, just to kind of keep track of time. Meg staff will indicate the time remaining both at the 5-minute and the 1-minute mark, and that'll be delineated on the screen.
Can I ask real quick, is Jennifer on the call? I believe Jennifer Lugo is going to join me.
Oh, I do not see Jennifer yet.
Okay.
Not on the call yet.
Yeah, we can wait a few minutes. We got some time.
Okay, sorry about that.
Oh, no problem.
How you liking Avondale, Matt?
Very, very busy, but definitely a good change, I think.
Very cool. Yeah, exciting times in transit all around.
Oh, yes.
I let her know she can join a couple minutes early if she can.
All right.
Hi, Jennifer, can you hear us?
Yes,
And Barbara is also joining today, right?
right.
Barbara, can you hear us? Barbara, you on mute.
Okay,
There
can
we
you
go.
hear me now? Sorry, good
Perfect. Now I
morning.
can hear you.
We can hear you,
All right,
Barbara.
All right, Vice Chair, we have
Sorry.
everybody from the city.
All right, I'll start over again. Hi, hey, Jennifer and Barbara. I already told
Hi.
Albert I'm Matt Dudley. I'm the vice chair of the MAG ad hoc committee. I just want to go over a few things before we begin. Just to keep track of time, MAG staff will indicate the time remaining both at the 5-minute and the 1-minute mark, and that this interview is being recorded. And for your presentation, just please provide like an introduction, include your names and titles of all those that are presenting, and then a very brief overview of your agency. But most importantly, describe your project request and the need. And then the remainder of the time will be open for questions from the committee. So with that, I will kick it off to you guys.
Thank you, Matt. So I, of course, am Albert Crespo, Deputy Public Transit Director for City of Phoenix. I oversee bus operations. I'll introduce Jennifer and Barbara, and then I'll turn it over to them. That might make it a little easier. So Jennifer Lugo is our contract manager for our alternative transportation programs. She's kind of our subject matter expert and guru in that regard. And Barbara is our administrative assistant one, who also helps support the program and support our paratransit operations. I wanted to start off by thanking you for the opportunity to apply for this grant. As you guys are aware, this grant supports a very important program for the city of Phoenix for our residents, and it would not be able to continue in its robust form without this funding. A little bit about the agency. Again, I know you guys are aware. I'll do a quick synopsis and then I'll turn it over to Jennifer. So the city of Phoenix, of course, provides local bus, rapid, neighborhood and business circulators, Phoenix Style of Ride, and the alternative transportation programs. We contract out with private companies to run these services for us. And we also have a planning, scheduling, IT that we support for the region as part of local transit. And then I'll turn it over to Jennifer Lugo so she can talk a little bit more about the program.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jennifer Lugo. As Albert mentioned, I'm the contract manager. Barbara Pius is with us today. She's going to be taking a more active role in the alternative transportation program. So today she's more here to get her feet wet in everything that goes on with the alternative transportation programs. So our funding request is for our $500,000 for our alternative transportation programs. The alternative transportation programs here at the city in Phoenix include senior cab and ADA cab programs, taxi subsidy programs, and also employment and medical transportation taxi subsidy programs. Our programs serve the elderly, individuals age 65 and older, and also individuals with disabilities. The aligns with the goals of the Section 5310 and also the MAG regional coordination. Our subsidies are for each of, there's the two sets. One is the ADA and senior cab. Our program participants in those programs essentially purchase a certain amount of fare in advance, and they're able to use that to contact various participating taxi providers to schedule service when they need it. Our taxi service providers are available throughout the greater Phoenix area, 7 days a week and essentially 24 hours a day. For our medical and employment programs, these are for repetitive trips to employment locations from the home to an employment location or to a repetitive medical need. Primarily our participants in that program do use that for dialysis transportation. And these programs, our subsidy it covers up to $20 with the participants paying 25% of the cost of their service. Again, the participants can schedule a service when they need it with the taxi providers, various taxi providers. There are about 16 total transportation providers that our program administrator has worked with and gotten involved in the programs. There have been some challenges because of the pandemic. We haven't seen as big a bounce back in some of our service, especially because on our Phoenix Dial-A-Ride system, which many of our members are eligible for, there was free service throughout all of last year. We resumed collecting fare on those programs in November. So we might see an uptick in our alternative transportation programs. It just hasn't bounced back as quickly as some of our other programs have after the pandemic. There's still some staffing shortages that our transportation providers have to contend with. But overall, our participants have still been pleased with the service and really use it when they need it. Some of the things that we're looking for, also there's been an increase in taxi service. So really trying to focus on getting an increase in the monthly allotment available or the maximum subsidy. And we're looking at the best ways to do that. It's kind of difficult right now with lower ridership, and we want to be careful about increasing those subsidy allotments to be able to continue to maintain the program. And if you have any questions, we're here to answer.
All right, thanks, Jennifer. Let's begin with questions from the committee. Are there any questions? All right, well, my question is, could you tell us what would be the effect to the Phoenix program if you were not awarded these funds?
Well, we would start with freezing the enrollment and not able to add new members. There are currently 5,100 registered members. Not everyone takes a trip every month, but we have that, need to address for 5,100 members. So we would start with freezing enrollment. We wouldn't be able to add new participants. And then depending on, I think the biggest factor now is going to be the cost of the taxi service, limiting the number of trips that are available, and not being able to go forward with an increase in this. And that's going to limit our members' ability to travel in itself, because of the rising costs in the taxi service. They're not going to be able to take as many trips with their allotments.
Okay, all right. Any other questions from the committee? All right, hearing none. Jennifer, Albert, and Barbara, welcome aboard. Thank you for coming today and explaining your program.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you. We
All right, you guys have a great day. All
Thank
right.
you.
Thanks, you too. Bye.
All right, bye.
Chair and members of the committee, next we have Northwest Valley Connect. I believe they are here.
All righty.
So I'm going to bring them into the room. Hello, Kathy, can you hear us? Hi, Kathy, can you hear us?
I can now, yes.
All right.
Hi, Kathy.
Hi.
I'm Matt Dudley. I'm the vice chair of the MAG Ad Hoc Committee. Just want to go over a few things before we begin, just to kind of keep track of time. MAG staff will indicate the time remaining both at the 5-minute and the 1-minute marks, and you'll see that it'll pop up on the computer screen. Let you know that this interview is also being recorded. And for your presentation, just please provide an introduction, include your name and title, and give us a very brief overview of your agency, no more than a minute. But most importantly, please describe your project request and the needs that you have. And then the remainder of the time will be open for questions from the committee. So with that, I will turn it over to you, Kathy.
Okay, thank you. I am Kathy Chandler, and I am the Executive Director for Northwest Valley Connect. Northwest Valley Connect is a nonprofit operating since 2014 with a vision of making sure everybody gets a ride, especially those 65 and older and persons with disability and veterans. NVC is the safety net for those who don't have a ride option. Referrals to NVC from other agencies, hospitals, Valet Metro, city staff, and more go to our call center operators. Callers call, and the operators refer them to the best option for the ride that the caller is looking for. An example is if somebody calls us from the city of Glendale and they're going to somebody in Glendale, we typically can take a look at where they're going and say, Glendale has really good public transportation, and this is how you can get from point A to point B, and help them with that kind of education travel training. We would not offer them a ride with our volunteers. We have a team of volunteer drivers who use their own vehicles, and then a group of accessible drivers who use our vehicles for accessible rides. We have seen a steady growth since 2014 through 2019. In 20, we saw a reduction of about 47% overall. We had a core group of volunteers and staff that continued to serve during those times to get people to medical trips, dialysis, cancer treatments, and groceries. In 2021, we saw an increase of 34% coming back up. The trends that we're seeing now and are adjusting for with these grants are in the need for wheelchair accessible trips, people wanting to go out on social group trips, and the needs brought to us by our partners in the community. Sun City Community Action Network is a nonprofit in Sun City that supports some transportation. They were contacted by a low vision group at a church, asked to pay for that trip. And so SCAN is now paying Northwest Valley Connect's driver to be able to provide those trips to that low vision group. One of the partnerships. The growth in housing in our area has brought challenges, along with fuel prices, and it's been hard to recruit enough volunteer drivers. These are some trends that we've been seeing. Northwest Valley Connect applied for 3 grants. One is a vehicle to replace an aging cutaway that is in poor condition. We use all of our accessible vehicles. We were able to obtain one that Hacienda was getting rid of, and that's been a huge benefit to us. We borrow one from Benavia, so we have a partnership with them, and we borrow one of their vehicles, and we still could use more for sure. We applied also for preventative maintenance. That grant is to support the maintenance on those 53 vehicles we have. At this point, we have a minivan with a ramp. We have 3 cutaways, and we have Benavia's van that we maintain also. The other grant that we applied for was an alternatives grant. This is to support volunteer mileage reimbursement and the volunteer coordinator salary. These items are crucial to recruiting more volunteer drivers, and which is one of our major challenges right now. I would like to thank Meg and the mobility managers, Dee Dee and Hezekiah, for providing the trainings that are provided. We've been sending drivers every time we can. They are good and they are much appreciated. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thanks, Kathy. Let's begin with questions from the committee. Are there any questions? Okay. Quick question, Kathy, about preventative maintenance. I know seems like to be a trend that there's a lot of, the cost for preventive maintenance has gone up. Have you seen that on your side of the house?
I have not seen that, but then I don't deal directly with it. It's dealt with by the fleet manager. I just make sure the bills are paid. I'm sorry.
Could you give me a little background on how the mileage reimbursement works for like volunteer drivers? Are they given a per mile reimbursement? How does that work?
So this was instituted when I first started. It's 14 cents a mile, which is what the IRS won't take any away from, so they don't have to. There's actually, and so the way that we facilitate the process is that our volunteer drivers have a login to our website and an ad hoc form that they fill out, and then a report gets pulled. We have a partnership with Experience Matters where they pay the first $50 of it, and we pay after that. We were looking at raising that to the 58.5 cents per mile that there's a law that a representative in, I think, Congress is putting through to try to raise that federal rate to 58.5. And we would raise ours to that also.
All right. And what would be the effect to your program if you were not awarded?
Yeah, the vehicle, it would be very difficult to keep up with. The maintenance is a cost issue. The way prices are with fuel and everything else, that would be something that we would have to really do some fundraising to get, if we didn't get awarded a grant for it. The volunteer coordinator and the mileage reimbursement matter a lot, because those are things that aren't as easy to find in another place and are really much needed.
Okay. And coming out of COVID, how easy or difficult has it been to get those volunteer drivers?
We have been having a very hard time. We have some contracts, so we have paid drivers for our contracts. We've had a hard time getting paid drivers. We've had a hard time getting volunteers. There just seems to be a little bit of a different attitude or culture at this time.
Okay.
So it's really hard.
All righty. Any other questions from the committee? All right, hearing none. Kathy, is there anything you would like to add?
No, I don't think so. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
All right, Kathy. Well, thank you for coming in today and giving us your presentation.
Thanks. Have a good day.
All right. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Our next agency is Foothills Caring Corps. They have a preventive maintenance, a volunteer drivers program, and are requesting vehicles. Zacchaeus, are they here?
They're not here yet. I have emailed them, but I haven't received a response yet.
And they're not supposed to start till what, about 10 a.m.?
Yes.
You know, let's take a 10-minute break and then we can reconvene almost right at 10 o'clock.
Hello, Donna. Can you hear me?
Okay, there we go.
All right. How are you,
Okay.
Donna?
Great. How are you doing today?
I'm
I
doing
have
good as well.
Robin.
Hello, Robin.
Yeah.
Hi, good morning. Thank
Good
you for having
morning.
us.
Thank you for participating. Let me just confirm the committee did take a quick break right now.
Okay.
So I will check with our chair and vice chair if they are back.
Okay.
Oh, I just got back. But I
Paul's
don't know if
present as
everyone
well.
else is.
I'm here. This is Nate.
I'm here.
Chandler's here.
Mesa's here.
All right, looks like we're missing just a couple more members, and then we can get started once they're back.
We're ahead of schedule anyway, so that's all good.
This is so well done.
So looks like the city of Phoenix is still not back. So we're waiting on them to start.
We're happy to wait. Gonna take a sip of water and stay hydrated.
I have to say, Robin, I still kept the little heart. that
She's
you
got her
gave me
squeeze ball.
on the other meeting, and I use it a lot.
I'm so glad to hear that. I'll get you another one if you wear it out. Yeah, they're definitely, I have one in my car, I have one by my bed. They're really,
it's really good.
yeah, good for the hands, good for the soul. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed that. That makes my day. How have you been doing?
Doing good.
That's great. I
Yeah,
know y'all are busy.
Very busy, but good.
A lot of opportunity to help others, that's for sure. A lot of people in need right now. We just have to figure it out together how we can serve those needs, right?
Yes.
We need our privacy right now. Forever. Like Betty. I want to retire. Denied. God, I want to retire. Denied. I'm pretty sure I can do that, right? No. Oh, man. You know what? This is like my superpower. It's something, it's like I don't have it. I feel yes.
Oh,
Love this.
okay, it's always good to have, yes.
No, for some reason visually, when I see the service area,
Vice Chair, Chair, members of the committee, we do have Foothills.
All right, it is 10 a.m. Donna and Betty, welcome and thank you for your time here today. I am Matt Dudley. I am the Vice Chair of the MAG Ad Hoc Committee. Just want to go over a few things before we begin. One is just to kind of keep track of times. MAG staff will indicate the time remaining both at the 5-minute and the 1-minute mark, and that'll be delineated on the screen. This interview is being recorded, and for your presentation, just please provide an introduction, include your name and title, a very brief overview of your agency, but most importantly, please describe your individual project request and the need, and then the remainder of the time will be open for questions from the committee. So with that, I will turn it over to you.
thank you. I am Robin Cochran, Executive Director of Foothills Caring Corps, and I thank all of you for this opportunity to visit with you and address you as you serve on the ad hoc committee. We're here and happy and honored to provide information about Foothills Caring Corps and our need for the funding we have requested in the 3 Section 5310 grant applications that we submitted to you. Foothills Caring Corps is a local Section 501c3 nonprofit organization. For over more than 2 decades of existence, we've assisted thousands of persons in our greater than 270 square mile service area by matching their needs with trained and vetted volunteers willing to help. The persons we serve, we call them our neighbors in our community, and they are those persons who are 65 years of age or older, or are adults with disabling conditions who are trying to live and thrive independently in their own homes. The main challenges many of them are facing are lack of affordable transportation needs. They have lack of access to health, wellness, and the needs of food, clothing, and there are issues with social isolation. To accomplish our mission, we offer 2 types of transportation programs, as well as mobile meals delivery and multiple individual services. Several other programs include friendly visiting, phoning, shopping assistance, minor home repair, and technology assistance and pet therapy. Our volunteers who are engaged and trained are the ones who provide all of our services. We are fully dependent on this wonderful group of people who help us. And thank you for listening. And we're thankful for the opportunity to have this fleet of vans to provide this critical transportation need. All of our services, including the transportation, are provided free of charge, except for a few of our neighbors who are able to pay for the cost of their meals that we deliver to their homes. and some do receive subsidies. Now, I am just thankful for your support, because together we can help others thrive and live with purpose in the Foothills community and in the great state of Arizona. And I'm going to now introduce you to the kind team member who's talented, and she is here today serving in one of her many capacities as our transportation manager. And she is going to provide an overview description of the request and the needs that we have submitted for your review today. Again, thank you for your time, your talent, and for considering us as you steward these important funds.
Good morning. I am Donna Guerin, Van Transportation Manager for Foothills Caring Corps. As you know, we've submitted 3 different applications, one of which I'll start with the one that requests the largest amount of funding. That is the public transportation alternatives request, our volunteer driver non-emergency medical transportation program. We've been transporting people to various medical appointments, physicians, dentists, therapists, treatments such as dialysis, cancer therapies, ever since this organization began. It was really the impetus for the founding of the organization. And COVID has significantly decreased the number of volunteers that are currently doing that for us, although we are beginning to see more and more volunteers return. We're beginning to get back to kind of more of a normal operation, pre-COVID numbers of people that we were serving. There is a huge need in our community for those rides. Although in the 20 to 21 year, as our application said, we were able to only provide a little less than 1,400 rides. We're on track right now to be significantly higher than that. Just over the period from January through March, we were able to provide close to 600 trips under this program. So under this program, typically our volunteers provide the rides in their own vehicles. We will use Foothills Caring Corps vehicles for those people who need a wheelchair accessible van. And in that case, we always have at least 2 volunteers along, one of whom is PASS certified. And we train all of our drivers, make sure that they have good driving habits. We vet all of their backgrounds, and we are really happy that all of our rides are completely safe and we haven't had any issues. We were thrilled this year to begin to use a new volunteer engagement software program, and that's called Assisted Rides. And that has really helped in the scheduling of requests and the ability of volunteers to see what needs are out there and to volunteer for them. And that seems to be moving smoothly. And our main challenge at this point is trying to get some of our volunteers who might be a little technologically challenged into that program and being able to use it a little more easily than they are struggling with right now. So that continues to be an ongoing issue, but one that we think that we'll be able to overcome. So the grant that we've requested is, we've identified total costs of this program of just over $126,000. The grant matching, as you know, is 50%. And therefore the grant amount that we're requesting is just over $63,000. Those funds are meant, as seen in the budget in the grant, to help cover the salaries or portions of the salaries of our medical transportation manager, who really inputs all of those requests into our new program. She also helps train all the volunteers and maintain those relationships. There's also some salary coverage for our volunteer engagement manager, who is also training and especially now with this new program, reaching out to our pre-existing volunteers and getting them on board, as well as our operation manager, the van transportation manager, who helps with training, past training, and that's me, and fleet maintenance for the vehicles that we use in the medical transportation. We also have some expenses related to volunteer recruitment, because that is our real need right now. So that includes some of the communications, publication, other training materials, some messaging stuff, social media production. There's also our direct program expenses such as PPE that we provide to our drivers, because as we all know, safety is a major issue at this point, as far as keeping things sanitized and maintaining a safe environment, although that hopefully will be going away soon. We know that there are ongoing challenges into the future, especially with the vulnerable and very frail population that we transport. So, and finally, there's some costs related to the background checks and past certification of the volunteers. Oh my goodness, time is running fast. Let me keep going. Let's talk about our second application, which is preventive maintenance. And we have a fleet of 8 vehicles, 7 of which qualify for preventive maintenance because they had previously been funded in whole or in part through 5310. And we use those vehicles for 2 different things. One is our recreational van program, which takes groups of people to various events throughout the community. We help with things like letting our neighbors go grocery shopping and do things that they need getting to the food bank. We've been taking now an ever increasing group of people to our local food bank at least once a month. And we also do socialization things such as lunches and concerts and some other area activities that go on. We take them to wellness classes such as chair yoga. Many of them enjoy that. It helps them both socialize and get some benefits from movement and other things. So keeping everyone active and engaged and socialized is our main goal in this, which helps not only with their physical but mental health. So we maintain our vehicles based on our vehicle maintenance plan as reviewed based on the City of Phoenix's plan. The costs in this plan, which are meant to cover oil changes, brake repair, tires, lift and wrap maintenance, batteries, air conditioning, all of those wonderful things. We've identified upcoming costs for the period at issue of just under $10,000. The grant matching is 80%, so our grant request is just under $8,000, $7,924. Finally, our third request is actually for a vehicle. It is a request to replace one of our currently used vehicles, a minivan with a ramp that we use to primarily transport a couple of individuals, well, several individuals, but right now we're doing a couple to dialysis 3 times a week, and as well as a few others to other critical medical appointments. the use of the minivan is important because right now with gas prices being what they are, when we use one of our larger vehicles, the per trip cost is probably double than what it is in the minivan. So between gas mileage and running the vehicle while we're using the lift, we also have a number of volunteers who feel more comfortable using the ramp rather than the lift, as well as our neighbors. So I will just end there. You know what the costs are related to that vehicle. And if you have any questions, we'll try to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna and Robin. Let's begin with questions from the committee. Are there any questions? All right, Robin, Donna, what would be the effect to your program if you were not awarded?
Any or all of the requests? Is that, I mean,
Correct.
it would be devastating in many respects. The pandemic has certainly eroded a lot of our fundraising capabilities. Our major fundraisers have been delayed or we canceled. We pivoted in one respect. We're about to do a virtual event, but
our whole fundraising model has gone, into a totally different direction. And I'm a new executive director. And so we're capacity building just to manage the program demands for the mobile meals, which has doubled. And then our fundraising model, we can't have our Taste of Foothills, which was our signature event. So now it's very serious. Our need for critical funding is existential, really.
Okay.
So we appreciate you hearing us, and whatever data you need or statistics or deliverables, whatever we can do to help you. We just appreciate you giving it serious consideration, because this is just our primary source for funding.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from the committee?
Molly,
All right.
that our pet therapy dog says, please help.
Okay. All right, Robin and Donna, thank you very much for coming in and explaining the needs that you had at Foothills.
okay. Thank you very much. We
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Have a
Okay.
great day.
Things go well for you guys. Hope you stay hydrated.
All righty.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
All right.
Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, our last agency today is Valet Metro, and I know a couple of members are having to recuse themselves. But thankfully, we do have Wendy Miller, who is our designated recipient, who will be able to introduce the agency.
Thank you, Wendy.
You're welcome. Good morning. Do we have everybody on the call from Valet Metro, or are we waiting for anybody else to come on?
Yes, Wendy, I have Bob, Wyatt, and Guillermo here already.
Perfect. Well, good morning. Welcome. Thank you for your time. This is Wendy Miller. I am the designated recipient representative from the city of Phoenix and a member of the MAG ad hoc committee. I'd just like to go over a quick few things before we begin. To keep track of time, staff will indicate the time remaining. You'll see it on your screen at the 5 and 1 minute mark. The interview is being recorded. And for Valet Metro's presentation, if you could provide an introduction, including the names and titles of all those presenting, a very brief overview of your agency, no more than a minute, and most importantly, describe your project request and the need. The remainder of the time will be open for questions after that, if we finish with enough time. And with that, Bob, I'll hand it over to you and your team, and you guys can begin.
Great. Thank you, Wendy. And thank you, panel, for the time, allowing the time for us to do this interview. Is my volume okay?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you fine.
All right, super. Good morning. I'm Bob Antilla, Senior Management Analyst at Valet Metro in the Planning Division. And I serve as the agency's grants application coordinator. With me today from our Accessible Transit Services Division are Guillermo Gonzalez, Program Coordinator, and Wyatt Scar, our Paratransit and Ride Choice Program Supervisor. Valet Metro is the regional public transportation agency providing coordinated transit services to residents of the Metro Phoenix area. Our general population served includes the greater public in the entire region, including low-income seniors and people with disabilities. These services include operation of regional, local, express, circulator, bus service, and light rail in 7 different communities in the region, as well as providing rural bus service to Gila Bend and Ajo. We also operate paratransit services, as well as alternative transportation programs that provide seniors and individuals with disabilities with the ability to travel locally and region-wide. And we also manage alternative commute solutions, including van pool, regional rideshare, and commute solution programs, which include carpooling, bicycling programs, teleworking, and compressed work week options. 5310 funding for our alternative transportation and travel training programs has enabled us to address some of the region's unmet mobility needs to provide mobility options beyond ADA mandated boundaries, service times, and service days, and help us further our vision of connecting communities and enhancing lives. I'm now going to turn it over to Guillermo and Wyatt to talk more about the programs in our applications for funding.
Thank you, Bob. I'll start first. Once again, I'm Wyatt Scar. I'm the Paratransit and Ride Choice Program Supervisor here at Valet Metro in the Accessible Transit Department. And I'm going to be talking about our Ride Choice Program, which is an alternative transportation program that we offer to residents in several communities. To begin with, Ride Choice originally was developed in 2007 as a coupons for cabs. And over the years, we developed it and redesigned it and rebranded it as Ride Choice. With this redesign, Ride Choice expanded into different communities and started seeing significant growth. There are currently 11 different jurisdictional communities participating in the Ride Choice program, with others looking to join here, hopefully in the next year or so. And approximately 130,000 one-way trips are being provided annually. Ride Choice provides a highly subsidized transportation for people with disabilities that are ADA certified, and with some other communities also providing transportation for seniors age 65 and older, low-income residents, or veterans. As the name suggests, Ride Choice allows customers to choose which transportation provider they wish to use for their trips from a growing list of approved providers. Currently, there are 12 providers that include rideshare companies such as Lyft and Uber, local taxi companies, and other local transportation companies, providing both ambulatory and wheelchair accessible vehicles. The open market concept also encourages these providers to compete on providing the better service at a reasonable cost. Ride Choice is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and provides the same day service. Ride Choice operates in all of Maricopa County, including areas outside the mandated paratransit ADA service area, and where public fixed routes do not operate. In line with Valet Metro's core purpose of connecting communities and enhancing lives, this allows individuals to travel to areas where public transportation is either limited or not available at all. For a lot of residents, this means getting to medical appointments, getting to work, getting to school, seeing family, or simply getting out into their communities. Ride Choice also becomes more cost-effective for the rider, Valet Metro, and their participating partner communities. For the rider, the base cost is $3 per trip, opposed to the $4 per trip for paratransit. The average cost that Valet Metro and its partners see is $22 to $25 per trip for Ride Choice, opposed to $53 to $60 per trip for the paratransit service. This difference is actually becoming even more important as we see increased costs because of fuel, employment, insurance, and other cost increases. In the West Valley, the participating communities are the city of Surprise, Tolleson, and unincorporated areas of Maricopa County, which include the Sun Cities area. Almost all the areas within these communities are outside the ADA service area and without or very limited public transportation services. Ride Choice allows many of their residents to travel and stay connected to their communities. For instance, the Surprise Senior Center is using Ride Choice to get their members transport to and from their facilities. And then another good example I like to use out in the West Valley is Clarence, who lives outside the ADA service area in the West Valley with his daughter in a multi-generational household. With his daughter having to provide for several persons in their household, provide the transportation for several persons in their household, including driving her kids to and from school, he would not be able to go to his programs at the VA without Ride Choice. In the East Valley, the participating communities of Gilbert, Mesa, Tempe, Scottsdale, Chandler, and Fountain Hills, and also unincorporated areas of Maricopa County. Like the West Valley, many of these areas find themselves outside the ADA service area and are with limited public fixed routes. Ride Choice has also allowed riders to continue to stay connected to the communities in the East Valley and get to vital services such as medical appointments to help enhance their lives. Good example would be Corliss in the city of Scottsdale, who lives outside the paratransit service area and recently found herself suddenly needing to get to physical therapy after a knee injury. Without Ride Choice available, she wouldn't have, she most likely would have missed a lot of these therapy sessions, and Ride Choice allowed her to quickly and easily get to them without interfering with her recovery. I can go through, and we got many stories as such. A lot of customers, these are just a few examples. There are many riders that are being able to use Ride Choice to get to medical appointments, vital services, work, or just simply to get out into their communities and enhance their lives and kind of live their lives. At this time, I will turn it over to Guillermo.
Thank you, Wyatt. Yes, my name is Guillermo Gonzalez. I'm the program coordinator, and I am going to be presenting on travel training. Travel training is a vital part of our transportation system. It teaches residents how to use our fixed route and light rail system. Many times, people with disabilities and seniors that may qualify for paratransit eligibility still want the freedom to have and choose their own schedule. And that is where fixed route comes into play. But fixed route can be scary if you've never used it. And that's where travel training really has a big part of it. Currently, right now, an average paratransit trip is about $58. An average fixed route bus trip is $5.80. And an average light rail trip is $3.23. Those are pretty big differences when you look at the cost in providing these trips for our customers. So these customers learn trips for whether it be for whatever they want. They can go to church, school, work, medical services, or visiting a friend. They learn specific routes, and they can learn more than one route. They can keep coming back, learning other routes, and it enables them to have that freedom and choose where to go by learning how to use and schedule, and not scheduling, but understanding the bus schedule, as well as the light rail schedule, learning how to purchase fare and how to use fare, learning how to make transfers, making sure they can trip plan using various methods, whether it be our customer service, our trip planning app on our Valet Metro application, on our webpage, as well as Google. These are very important things when you think about somebody using paratransit service. So I kind of want to share a little bit about where we've been on and how it's been growing. In fiscal year 2018-2019, we had 117 people complete travel training. In the year 2019-2020 fiscal year, we had 127, and that includes March and when everything closed down. So we were growing exponentially. This fiscal year, we currently have, last fiscal year, we had 78, and that's when we were affected a bit with COVID. So far this year, we have 144. That is including 8 seniors. We've done a total of 433 sessions, and we've received 318 applications. So the demand for travel training is really there, and people are really taking advantage of it. One item that I'd like to say is that we have people, not just seniors and people with disabilities, but high school students, people trying to get independent, trying to learn how to use the service, that become great citizens and members of our community. I have a story here of somebody that came recently to the Mobility Center to recertify their ADA paratransit service, but they're using fixed route to get to and from work. This person learned and gained gainful employment at Safeway, and then they lost their job at Safeway. And the person needed to know how to get to different grocery stores because he needed to get another job. And they taught him how to get a job. And they found a way for him to use the regular bus service for him to get to and from his job. He's been doing this job for the last 10 years, taking fixed route rather than paratransit service. And he loves it. And he actually came in and actually seeked out one of our travel trainers because he is so grateful on that. So it was a really heartfelt moment that we had with that, seeing the benefit of that. We also have another student. He came from a vocational program at Phoenix High School. He was part of this program and he did not want to learn how to use it. The teacher and the travel instructor worked really hard and they learned how to get him to and from school. When he graduated, he wanted to start working at Peter Piper Pizza. And he was able to learn how to use the bus route to get to and from Peter Piper Pizza. And the teacher just said, as soon as he was able to get his independence and travel on fixed route, he was a completely different person. He was less angry. It was just a complete 180, and him being able to have that independence and grab it using fixed route system. And we have several stories like this that happen all the time, whether it be from teachers, from parents, from actual riders. So we really, really hope that the travel training program can continue because there is a demand across Maricopa County. Thank you. Was I on mute?
No, you're good.
Okay.
Well, that's all of our formal presentation. We'll go ahead and open it up to questions and try to help where we can.
Thank you very much. I will ask the committee if the committee has any questions.
Hey, Guillermo, this is Matt Dudley, City of Avondale. Kind of quick question on travel training coming out of COVID. Is Valet Metro going to do anything different, or is it just going to be like the same old travel training program as before?
Travel training has been, we adjusted to our current conditions. Some of the examples of travel training were the Train the Trainer workshop that we currently provide, where we teach people how to train, and then we certify that they've been trained correctly. So we had a virtual program, but we're going to go back to in person. Our actual trainers still go out. They followed all the rules that we did following the CDC guidelines and the transit rules. So travel training is constantly adapting to the rules that we have in our transit system. So they are changing, but yes, it is still travel training. We're adjusting from the transit book, because we're no longer printing the transit book, to other ways on how they can look up the schedule.
All right, thank
Hope
you.
that answers your question.
It does.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I have one final question. If you could please tell us what Valet Metro's effect would be on the program if you were not awarded, or programs plural.
I'll quickly go.
Yeah, why don't each of you guys speak to your programs about that? If not, I can speak generally.
Well, for ride choice, the effect would be just the cost. A lot of the more costs we shifted to the jurisdictions, and as especially after coming out of COVID, a lot of jurisdictions are looking at their budgets, and they may have to look at even reducing eligibility. Removing maybe, for example, allowing seniors in and stuff. So that could have a large effect. Some communities may even have to pull out and not allow the customer, just to help with their budgets.
with travel training and the increase in demand we have, it would be very hard to continue to sustain the current demand that we're receiving. Receiving over 300 applications, and we're not even through the fiscal year, is a very high demand. And if we don't have the funding for it, our waiting list can grow exponentially, and therefore affecting the demand of the service. And in turn, less people using fixed route and may be relying more heavily on paratransit service.
Thank you very much. Well, I just wanted to thank you guys for your time today and providing all the information to the committee and answering the questions. And thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, thank you, Wendy. Thank you, panelists.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. That concludes all of the agency interviews. So we are going to take a 15-minute break. So it's 10, let's call it 10:35. So we will come back at 10:50, but please make sure you forward your final interview scores to Hezekias. We have not adjourned. We're still in the application review process. So no outside discussions. And I like to ask the committee, since we only really kind of had 5 committees today, when we do come back, we will be live streamed and recorded. But when we come back, depending on how long our discussion is going to be, if we can then decide if we want to break for lunch or continue to work through the agenda. So, we'll get there.
Question for you, probably Hezekias or Dee Dee. Do we have to go back to that other link, or do we stay on this one and we can live stream from here?
You can stay here. It will be live streamed directly.
Good point.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank
Good
you.
point. All right, everybody. So, yep, get your scores in there to Hezekias, and then we will come back at 10:50.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee.
All right. See you then, everyone. All right, Dee Dee, it is 10:50.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I just want to check with Ezekiel to see if he is set.
All right.
Hi, Vice Chair and members of the committee. Oh, it's down here. Hi, Vice Chair and members of the committee. I just have one more score to finish up, and I'll be ready in the next couple of minutes.
Okay. But in the meantime, let's talk about the next agenda item, which is to discuss, review, and finalize the ranking and develop the priority listing. So welcome back. As a reminder, this is being recorded and live streamed. The committee will now have an opportunity to debrief on the interviews that have taken place so far, yesterday and today. And please remember to keep your comments to what has been presented and on the application only. So with that, I'm going to open it up to the floor and to see if anyone has any comments. Now, I can say from my perspective, there's definitely a lot of need out there, Dee Dee, coming out of COVID. You could just hear that in pretty much every single applicant talking about the need, especially coming out of COVID, that there is a lot of pent-up demand, honestly, coming from these services, and that just the need is there. So I'm glad we do have that extra funding for the most part to do this, because this would be a very difficult decision if we did not have all that particular funding. But I think we did have great presentations throughout yesterday and today. Anyone else have any other comments?
Hey, Matt, this is Nate. Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's a lot of good presentations this year. I think everybody did a really good job. Nobody seemed, kind of overwhelmed or anything, which is good. One of the thoughts I had was, I was a little concerned about the preventative maintenance and the actual cost of that. I think some of the applicants, I'm not sure if they really know yet what those increases in cost for PM will be. But to your point, I mean, that's a good thing that we have extra money this year. So hopefully they did a good job of calculating that out and what they really need. But that's just my only thought.
True. Yeah. With those PM, and it seems like most of them had an increased cost in the PM. Others, some of them said they were okay, but as we go forward with the supply chain and everything that's happened, not only nationally, but internationally, it's going to be interesting to see what those PM costs come in. And even the vehicles too. I know, Wendy, you do a great job over there. Just it's all these unknowns. You hear vehicles all the time and the increase in cost. So we'll see what happens there.
Hey, this is Nancy.
Hey, Nancy.
Hey, kind of on that same note, the new vehicles request, again, I show some concern just because they'll have new vehicles, but are they going to be able to make sure that they have enough drivers to utilize them and put them to good use? And so that's kind of what my concern was for the vehicles.
Yeah, good point. And I think we'll be able to see kind of like going into next year. I think that's one of the things we're want to keep an eye on next year is these vehicle requests, especially for expansion. Are they utilizing these vehicles to the best of their ability?
Chair, Vice Chair, Dee Dee, members of the committee, this is Wendy Miller. I can give you a little bit of thought on that in terms of that is something, as you even heard, the city of Phoenix is struggling with their contractors. So I do not, as the DR, really have a concern on that from an FTA perspective, because we need to try to be able to make sure that we're spending down the funds and giving out eligible projects, the opportunity to provide that service. And in COVID, lots of fleet were parked due to no fault of their own. It's a pandemic. There's, you know what I'm saying? So driver shortages and things, that's not something that they can combat. But if they are able to get drivers and they are able to provide those services, I don't think holding back funding vehicles in for something they can't control is a concern. But not that we don't have that concern. Of course, we want them to, run service and provide that. And I know that MAG and some of the mobility managers and some of the folks can work on, what other creative ways can we do to attract drivers, or we could have those, discussions and combat any of the issues that we have. But that isn't a concern for me. In terms of, to comment also on the PM comment, yes, we don't know where all these things are going to come in. And even again, during the pandemic, they weren't running that service. So things were down. Now that they're putting that back up, their services are back in, most of them are back in close to full service, or more than it was during the pandemic. They're spending those down, but the costs are higher, etc. So we're just going to have to do our best at giving them what they need. If they are a little overshooting in their PM costs, I know that was a question that one of our agencies, we asked them in terms of, you have a really high percentage of what you're asking for versus the rest of the agencies. But what we don't know is, are those other agencies under asking? We don't really have a standard cost for PM, and the City of Phoenix, as the DR, we're doing some research and asking those questions from our contractors and our operations staff to help us give our subrecipients a better guideline of what things should be costing and where things are at, so that we know when we're making those decisions for funding in the future that we are more informed. And we're planning on giving more detail, hopefully in the future, in our guidebook, etc., on expanding ways that they can use PM and being more inclusive, because of the amount of funding that we do now start to have, that everybody's using that to their best ability. And at times, anyway, I feel like I'm going on and on, but that's basically what I'm thinking in terms of the PM costs. And the vehicles, there's nothing we can do about that. One other request that I would make is that even if we have, let's say that, we did an estimate of, I can't remember off the top of my head what our estimate was in terms of the cost of the vehicle, but if our actuals come back higher than that, since we do have excess funding, I would like the committee to be aware and be supportive of that. We could actually fund more to cover the cost of a more expensive vehicle if the city finds themselves in that position.
Okay, that's a good point. And I do like your suggestion, Wendy, especially getting the mobility managers involved when it comes to the hiring practices. And then that's something like MAG can send out to the mobility managers to say, hey, because that seemed like to honestly be one of the common themes we've heard is, again, the drivers. And then Wendy, thank you very much. Trying to get an estimate kind of on what we can do for, what's basic preventive maintenance, what is that cost, so we can have a better idea in the future. Great ideas. Great ideas. Any other comments?
Joan Freeman, City of Scottsdale. No, thank you, Wendy. That you hit a lot of things on the head. So I appreciate your comments.
Excellent. All right, anyone else? Okay, hearing none. Didi and Hezekias, let's review the committee scores.
Thank you, Vice Chair Dudley.
If I may go over a couple items first. Thank you, Chair and members, Vice Chair, members of the committee, for this opportunity, for the interview opportunity. This provides our agency that experience of describing their request and their agency, where a lot of times they don't have that opportunity again to present to a major committee like this. So thank you so much. I also took note, and thank you, Wendy, Joan, and Nancy for your comments, and Vice Chair Dudley. I did take notes of some of the concerns from the applicants, such as staffing shortages, and not only for the agencies, but the companies that they work with, such as, the car repair place. That is something that Wendy had noted that we, that MAG and our mobility managers are going to look into. So thank you for that comment. Also, regarding PM, the preventive maintenance, thank you, Wendy, for bringing that up, and Nancy and Joan, I think. As Wendy had noted, we are looking at preventive maintenance and trying to provide some additional guidelines regarding the agencies and the request. We're going to also bring in the mobility managers to help with that. So next year we can provide some guidelines in our handout, in our application handbook. So thank you for that. And vehicle cost. When we submit our priority listing and it runs through our committee process, we do note on the recommendations that all costs are estimate until final procurement. So as Wendy as we all know, the vehicle costs are keep rising, and we really don't know what would be available and what is the final cost until Wendy, and thank goodness for your staff and Wendy's, diligent work on this, that we do get final procurement when we receive those vehicles. So thank you so much on that. Also, if there were to, and as Chair Williams had noted, a lot of our agencies did provide really good interviews, and MAC staff noted that there were 2 agencies that would be a really good example of having an effective interview. And I believe they were the Opportunity Tree and Benevidia, I believe. So we would like to use that as an example next year, possibly during our training, to show our applicants of what a good interview is. I think they followed the guidelines of just providing a very brief overview, but they did describe how the request is providing services for their agencies, and they definitely went over the different programs that they would utilize those requests. To review, there were 42 project requests that were up for discussion. Estimated funding available under 5310, we did receive final apportionments a couple of weeks ago. For the Phoenix-Mesa Urbanized Area, we do have 5.1 million in apportioned to our region, and not including the carryover, which we'll go over later. After this, we did receive about 4.6 in federal request. To summarize, after years of refining this process, the committee has developed the following parameters. Agencies can request 5 vehicles. Agencies not meeting 70 points would not move forward for the awarding. And I'm happy to say we have all agencies that met that criteria. 5310 operating type projects on the first round were at 125 increments, and the percentage based on the ranking until flow funding is suspended. We are federally required to award 55% to capital projects. I would very much like to thank Ezekias for coordinating the final scores and our interviews at this time. So thank you, Ezekias, for your support on this. And as you can see, Ezekias has pulled up the final scores with funding. I would also like to thank the City of Phoenix for reviewing the project request and the funding and the total funding available. So if we can go forward, and I will hand this off to Ezekias and Wendy to review the matrix. And if we can have that just a little bit larger, it's a little hard to see. So thank you.
Thank you, Didi. Is it better to see now?
That's why I also logged on to my computer more than just my phone. The larger screen.
Yeah, that's pretty good. You can definitely see it.
All right, perfect.
Yes.
Thank you so much. All right, so as Didi just mentioned, the first apportionment goes through capital. So here, what you can see right now is the same structure of your scoring sheets. So you see the applicant name, the application type, the project detail, and the amount requested. In your spreadsheets, they were in alphabetical order. Here they are already showing in order according to the final scores. Then after that, we have the total scores given by all of the committee members, because some of the agencies receive less scores due to the amount of members that abstained from scoring some of the applications. We do divide that by the number of the scorers and give a point average for the for each of the applications, and that's how the applications are being ranked, is on that points average, not in the total points. So here are the agencies listed by the ranking based on that points average. The first column after that, starting with the gray and blue area, are for all the capital allocations first. So you'll see that all of the operating requests will stay gray, and then the allocation will be given by the blue on the capital requests. I will not go into detail on each one of them, but I do want to show at the end, based on the committee's procedures of allocating 60%, being a 5% above the 55 minimum requirement of the FTA. On that 60% based only on the apportionment, this is not considering the rollover of funding amounts from last year, which the city of Phoenix can provide more details on that. So based on that 60%, we have 3.107 million available for allocation. Calculating all of the capital requests, we have 2.760 million in requests, which leaves about $346,000 remaining available for capital requests. So this is the capital allocation first. Then
Let me ask Didi, let's ask questions of the committee. Does everyone understand how that capital allocation got to where it is compared to what we have? So we have 3.1 million available. That's not including the rollover from last year, correct, Hezekias?
Yes.
And so with our interviews for the last 2 days, we did not make it to that 3.107 million. We only made it to 2.760. So we'll have a rollover for next year of 346 million. But some of the rollover for this year is going.
1,000, yes.
Yeah, that's good. All right. I just want to make sure everybody's clear on that one.
So yeah, this is Nancy. Sorry, I'm new. I'm going to probably ask a lot of questions. So is that typical to have? Is that typical to have a remaining balance, or is it just because of what's been going on?
This is Wendy. I can help with that a little bit. Of the remaining, it didn't used to happen that way, but with the designation of this, the remaining available is only for the capital portion, the traditional capital portion. Since we are required by FTA to fund 55% of our total apportionment towards those traditional capital projects. And we have only estimated costs for the vehicles, and we used to estimate higher than to make sure that we could cover the cost of the vehicle. And then once those vehicles were awarded, then they dropped down and we were dipping below our 55%. So that's why we raised it to the 60. I wanted to clarify that so that when we do actually fund the actuals of the vehicle, that we're still above the 55%. The remaining available is because in recent years, we increased the amount of the award of our allocation from 3.5, I think you said, Dee Dee. Now we're at 5.1. We increased our amount by 40%. Even last year, because of COVID, we didn't give out as much funding. There wasn't as many people asking for like new vehicles because they weren't using it. They weren't operating service. So things were kind of stagnant and we got less requests. So we still have funding available from last year that we need to fund towards the 55%. And then this year, we're going to have not only that 346,000 remaining available, we also have that rollover from last year, which is approximately about that amount. So we're going to have 700,000 on top of what we get next year to give away under that 55% category. So it's going to be increasingly harder for us to, if we only get the same amount of average requests each year, we're going to need to get creative in order to spend down that 55% unless we have an increase in ask, a broadening of the projects. One of the things we're looking at for the future, we've asked MAG to look at doing another review on the amount that's being given to mobility managers and see if that amount should be increased. That was established like 5 or 6 or 7 years ago. And the $45,000, we're saying, hey, have times changed? Is there a cost of living increase or a change in that? So can we look at that? We're looking at expanding, the definition, at least in giving that information to the 5310 folks that are using vehicles. How can we expand on the PM? So we're looking for alternative ways to utilize the 55% to spend that down. I'm even looking at other, project ideas that come out of the circular that say, hey, does this qualify? We talked about, the brokerage idea as something that we're looking at. There's just, if it continues and our projects stay the same, we're going to have money sitting on the table, and we as a region and me as the grant manager certainly don't want that. So we're monitoring that and trying to figure out new ways. So it is kind of common more recently than not. Does that help?
Yeah, that's helpful. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, I'd like to add a comment to Nancy's question. In the past, we have had more requests than we had available funding. Again, with the IIJA increase of 40%, we did jump up from 3.1 to 5.1. We did see requests go down due to COVID, but I know a lot of the agencies have noted that they are starting to increase their services to the consumers and starting to pick up back their transportation service program. So we may see an increase of requests next year. Thank you.
And then just for those who are pretty new to this, so you'll see though in the capital side, the 55%, when you look over into column N, unlike the operational cost, which then is more of a percentage, you'll just see the straight ask. For instance, right there, you see Mark Community Resources. They are there at the bottom at 75. However, since it is the capital, that number just goes straight over into that column for the allocation, where the operational side is more of a percentage based. And I'm going to stay in my lane and I'll let Hezekiah explain it. He's kind of already explained it a little bit already.
Thank you, Matt. So Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, now that we've gone through the capital allocation, then we go to the operating allocation. And as Didi mentioned, the first pass of funding allocation is based on 125,000 increments times the score that they received on their application. Or instead of 125,000, if they have requested less than that, then we will use that amount times their score. So as you can see here, For example, as Valet Metro East Valley right choice request was above the 125,000 for request, we use that 125 times their score, and we come to this first pass of allocation, and the same repeats to all of them. Here is an example of one that does not go above 125,000. Foothills Caring Corps. They have 63,000, so that is the number that is used to multiply by their score and give the first pass of allocation. So we go down now only in the operating requests to allocate their fundings. After the first pass, there were still money left. So what happens at that moment after the first pass is that we go back to a second pass. On that second pass, instead of using that 125,000 that the committee have agreed on doing for the first pass, we do the remainder of the amount available, of the amount requested times the score again. So that's why we subtract this amount to this amount to make it easier for you to understand. So we do column F minus column K, and then multiply that result by their scores again, and it gives that result. So we did it all again to all of the other applications as well. And we get the final apportionments. All of those were able to be apportioned using that math, except the last of the operating request, which was Valley of the Sun YMCA. If we use that math for Valley of the Sun YMCA, they would receive 23,937. However, that would go above the 30% that the committee agreed for operating requests. So instead, they get the remainder of the amount, which is 21,427 for a full allocation of the operating requests amount of 30%, leaving them with some percentage of the total request for all of the applicants.
All right, and another perspective is just like we mentioned kind of in the committee, is if you are below 70, you're not going to be even considered, but everybody is above 70%. That's correct.
Yes.
And then as a case, let's just go to the top and just show everybody how that kind of works. You kind of already mentioned that. So for instance, Valet Metro, their application PTF alternative, East Valley Ride Choice, ranked #1. So their amount requested was 540,000. So we will then take 125,000 times point, what I'll do, like if you're doing it in your office, times 0.965, and that'll give you the 120,625. We go through the rest of the scores. We know we're going to have a remaining balance. So then for that next pass for operating allocation, what we'll do is then you take 540,000 minus that 120,625. I'm going to do that right now on my computer and make sure I get this right. And then we will get 419,375. And then we'll take that 419,375 times 0.965, and that'll get you the 404,697. So then you'll take that 404,697 plus the 120,625, and presto, there is the 525,322, which equates 525,000 out of their 540,000 request. So, and then there's the hidden row of what that percentage is. So,
yes.
So yeah, it's a pretty easy calculation, and a calculation that is taken, it seemed quite a few years to finally get to a process that is in place that was accepted by the region. So I really do appreciate Hezekias, because this used to take half a day to get these numbers. So it looks like you have it down to a science now.
Chair, this is Wendy. in essence, if we kind of break it down, I'm kind of a bottom line person, and I don't know if this description would be helpful for anybody, but it's helpful for me the way that I look at it. Everyone that is getting operating assistance is not getting fully funded in this scenario. They are only getting fully funded to the percentage of their score. So it's based on their score. It comes off a little bit percentage wise differently based on the amount of the, like if you saw the Valet Metro only gets 97% of their funding and some places lower get 99% of their funding, it works out a little bit differently based upon that. But ultimately, when I saw how this was going to play out, that because we are allocating the 60%, to the capital in order to make sure that we're meeting our 55%. Ultimately, some of the other remaining funding, I think, Hezekiah, do you remember the amount totally that was not funded spread throughout these projects? Was it about 50,000 or 30,000?
It was about 50,000.
About 50,000. So, one thing that I know we normally do the 60%. I thought that an alternative might be, and I asked Hezekiah if he would look at this in terms of, instead of funding the 60% on the vehicles, to fully fund the projects on the operations side and not do the allocations, or not. Anyway, funding the scores or funding the projects at the 59% versus allocating the full 60%, I believe gets us to the point where we are, doesn't it, where we're fully funding the operation projects?
Yeah, so this is the scenario that you asked me to run for you, Wendy. And in this scenario, instead of going, and let me just go back here, instead of going on that calculation based on the score, in this one, we're just fully funding the same way that we did with the capital. We're doing with the operating at a fully funding all the operating requests, which leaves us with, instead of a 30%, it's a 31.02%. And it's $52,000 more.
Okay, so in essence, if we altered our percentages by 1% and funded at the 59% to give us a 4% cushion in terms of the vehicle overage costs, we wouldn't have to not fully fund the operations projects. That is an option that we have. However, I know it's easier math-wise, but I would still like to present it in the way that we do the 125,000 pass and do it that way. We still wind up fully funding everybody, but I would do it based upon the committee's percentage that we have, our process, the way our methodology. I would still do it that way to show them that we're not totally changing our methodology. We're just lowering the allocation to ensure we meet our 55% by 1%.
Chair, members of the committee, Vice Chair, if I may make a comment.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you, both Ezekias, and thank you, Wendy, for looking at these funding scenarios. As Wendy stated, federally, we're required to do the 55% for capital request. It was a committee guideline or parameters that we did the 60% to ensure that we didn't award half of a vehicle. For this scenario, definitely, if we went to the 59%, we are within the guidelines to do that. We do. Again, thank you for this scenario. We do want to spend. It would be advantageous for us to spend down as much of our apportioned funding on this. Again, we are only federally required to do the 55%. The committee provided that guideline previously just so that we were ensured to get to the 55% and not award half of a vehicle if that were the case. Thank you.
Okay. Could you go to the top, Hezekias, with that spreadsheet? Because so that gives pretty much all the operational. I'm just looking at the operational. Everybody would get what they requested. I know just in the past, thinking about like the percentage sides on the operating side of it was kind of more, that was more of the peanut butter approach, which I know people really kind of did not like, and that we wanted to try to make sure that if you're doing an application and you're getting the points, that you're going to be rewarded a little more. I know that
And I
was
want to mention that, Wendy, I did create that one that does use the first allocation based on the committee's procedure, and then just use the remainder to get to the same amounts of the one that I showed previously.
Perfect. I would just prefer, if we are altering anything, we still stick to as close to our methodology as possible, to avoid those questions. It works out the same way, but if we're following the methodology, we're still giving that preference to the people that have the scores and giving them the most first, and going down the line that way. It works out that we do have enough funding if we only use a 4% buffer instead of a 5%, that everybody gets the most funding and we are giving out the most. So, in my opinion, I like that, but I just wanted to look at what the difference was, and we're talking $50,000, and in terms of a $1 million allocation, that is very minor.
Chair, this is Nancy. I have another question.
Oh, go ahead.
So there's no policy that states that we have to be 60/40. It can be a 59/31. There is no policy stating we have to stick to that. Is that what I hear?
Correct. The policy is 55%.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, I guess my only concern would be whether or not it goes back and forth year to year, if that's going to, I guess, rub people the wrong way, like not knowing exactly how we're going to do that, or would that come across as not having some not stability, but I guess I'm just having concerns, because once you go in that direction, it's kind of hard to then go back to a 60/40 split. I don't know. That's my only question, is how do you think that people would react to changing? And then if we needed to go back, would they be okay with that?
Chair, this is Robert.
Go ahead, Robert.
Okay, the issue here is what's required by the federal government is 55%, right? So that 5% that we're playing with is within the options that we have. It's not changing anything. So that when Wendy allows this, when we actually when Wendy purchases the vehicles, that there is this allowance on that 5% that might not be spent. So I think we're still within our purview on what we do with that 5%.
Correct.
The actual premise of this is, we as a committee are not actually awarding dollars. We're putting together a priority listing that tells us in the order in which Phoenix gives out those funds. So as the DR. So the 60% is a guideline which we requested to ensure we met our 55%, but it's not an absolute. So our request is that the committee give more than 55% to the traditional projects and hold that money in there to ensure that later we can award more funds to make sure we hit our 55% in future years, we can fund other traditional projects and fund them through this year's grant to make sure we hit those marks. So that's the premise behind it, is that we're getting your methodology in which we can award those funds. So as wearing my grant manager hat, it's advantageous to us as Phoenix to spend down as much as we possibly can and apply for as much as we can. So that's, the 60% was a guideline. It's not an absolute. We use 60% as the guide, but it could change, and it will change year to year. And what we want to avoid is those unintended consequences. So I understand what you're saying too. We want to avoid the unintended consequences looking like we're vacillating back and forth. But if our committee is, looking at, we need to just fund above 55 to cover those vehicle, project savings that we're going to get by spending less on vehicles than what we originally awarded to ensure we hit our 55%. As long as we're still going to cover that gap, then that was the purpose behind what we were doing.
Correct. Okay.
Yeah, Chair, this is Nancy. I just wanted to add on to my comment. I'm in support of spending down as much money as we possibly can, and knowing that we have 5% to have a little bit of leeway with carry forward monies or additional federal funds that have been allocated to this process. Yeah, I think it's a great idea to try and spend that extra 1%.
Okay. Okay. What about the rest of the committee?
This is Nina Arredondo, but Chair and Vice Chair, I am in agreement with this as well.
Okay.
Joan Freeman, City of Scottsdale, I'm in total agreement.
Perfect. Okay.
This is David, City of Mesa. I agree as well.
Dave, good. All right. Robert, you were good, right? I think Robert was okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, I can hear you, Robert.
Yeah, I agree. I think we have some flexibility.
Gives us some flexibility.
That's a great idea.
Okay. And you said it was about, it'll take us down another, what'd you say, Wendy, about 50,000? Spend another 50,000 on it?
It's another 52,000.
52,000. Okay. Hey, it's a start, right?
We're going to have to get creative next year.
I know. All
Very
right,
much so. And I've got some ideas.
All right. That's what I want to hear, Wendy and Dee Dee. Boy, oh boy, we need some ideas. This is a good first idea. I think it does help.
Matt, you say that now, Matt.
Just make sure Wendy doesn't and Dee Dee doesn't go to jail with this.
They won't. I'm sure they won't.
I've already got a call into FTA. We're going to remain above board on everything.
Okay, yeah. Who's that? Ariana, right? Yep, Ariana's in the region. So, yep, we can run it by them just to kind of see what it is. Okay. So it sounds like there's a committee consensus for approval using the 5310 allocation using the 5931 allocation model. All right. Dee Dee or Phoenix?
Do we need a motion?
Oh, yeah, we'll definitely need a motion. I just want to make sure everybody is okay with that. Dee Dee, is that correct? Am I following the script correctly?
Yes, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, if I can summarize the consensus.
Yes, please.
Also, just to reiterate, at this point, the committee is approving or developing the project, Wendy had mentioned, the priority listing where we will allocate the funding. So I will summarize the consensus is to move forward projects utilizing the priority listing to base the grant awards until available funding is expended, carrying over any unexpended funding. So the motion is to recommend the priority listing of projects for the FY 2022 Section 5310 Enhanced Mobility of Seniors and Individuals with Disability Program for the Phoenix-Mesa Urbanized Area for approval by the MAC Regional Council to forward to the City of Phoenix Public Transit Department to submit to the Federal Transit Administration.
All righty. So with that, can I get a motion on that?
I support, I offered the motion.
All right.
You have,
Robert
to, you have
Yabes.
to repeat it word for word if you're going to motion it.
It's recorded, right? Just run back the recording a little bit.
All right. So we have a motion for approval from the City of Tempe. Do I have a second?
This is David. I'll second.
All right, David, City of Mesa has seconded that. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. Dee Dee, could you please do a roll call?
Chair, Vice Chair of the committee, I would also, it was already for consensus and discussion, but also utilizing, I would like to add utilizing the methodology as approved by the committee.
Okay. Robert, you're good with that?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, I would now like to do a roll call. If you can respond by yea or nay. Nina Arredondo.
Yay.
Carolyn Ballard. Tata Florence.
Yay.
Yay. David has seconded the motion. Vice Chair Dudley.
Yay.
Joan Freeman.
Yay.
Nancy Jackson.
Yay.
Wendy Miller.
Yay.
Chair Williams.
Yay.
Mr. Yabes provided the motion and
Yay.
it is unanimous. Vice Chair.
All right, motion passes. Excellent. With that, we will move on to agenda item number 7, which is the request for future agenda items. Are there any other requested topics or issues of interest to consider for future agendas? Remember, topics and issues can only be requested for future agendas, but not discussed. All right, hearing none, I'm sure we'll come up with some in the future here, Dee Dee. All right, let's move on to agenda item number 8. It's comments from the committee. This is for information only. Does anyone have an announcement that they would like to make? Oh, I want to make announcements. I know Nathan and I were both attended the ASTA conference a couple of weeks ago. There was a lot of discussion. I think there was with a lot of the rule providers talking about 5310. I think there was even 5310 discussions on that one. So definitely a lot of interest, not only in the state, but nationally with the funding that's coming in there. So just kind of like what you mentioned earlier, Wendy, looking for different ideas how to spend down these funds coming out of COVID. So I found that very exciting. So I know Dee Dee and Hezekiah were both there. Do you guys have anything to share?
Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Yes, it was very interesting to hear statewide comments regarding the funding. At ASTA, there were Ray tell us what FTA staff were there. They did mention we did see the 40% jump and increase to our apportionments. The increase next year and for the next 4 years will be much lower, probably on the same trend as we've seen under the FAST Act. We did attend a couple of statewide meetings with our mobility managers, and ADOT did also say that they will be emphasizing preventive maintenance for their next application round. And also, we're happy to say that Ezekias went to a lot of RTAP, Regional Transportation Assistance Program, workshops, and got a lot of information regarding training opportunities that we can present to our stakeholders, our regional stakeholders. I did want to add, at the statewide mobility management meeting that was held at ASTA, we did discuss has statewide discussion, the staffing shortages, and not only agency, as I noted, but with services such as mechanics. The mobility managers are trying to look at best practices of hiring and employing staff. I know NACOG is looking at partnering with high schools and possibly getting an internship at car repair shops. I wasn't sure what that was called, car repair shops. But they are also looking at how, other best practices and any other strategies that they can look at. So we are looking at all of these issues. It's not affecting only our agency, but it is affecting agencies statewide and in different regions. So we are all looking at that on a statewide basis. As Keith said, I will be attending CTAA in a couple of weeks. We are looking at best practices regarding hiring and retaining employment, but we are also, Wendy had asked us to look at what other states are doing with 5310, what other projects and different strategies that they are utilizing 5310 funding. So we are tasked with exploring that and researching that, and we will hopefully bring that back to you at the next meeting. So thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee.
Oh, thanks, Dee. Where's CTAA being held this year?
It is being held in Kentucky.
Kentucky. All right.
Never been.
Good old Kentucky. All right.
Chair,
Yes, Wendy.
Vice Chair. This is Wendy. I just wanted to also give you guys a quick update on our subrecipient training. We are continuing doing monthly trainings with all of our 5310 subrecipients on topics and that are relevant to them. ADA, we do, vehicle maintenance stuff. We do all kinds of different things, and we usually do a full 5310 training right before the applications come out, etc. One topic that is coming more and more prevalent is vehicle disposals. We have a lot of people, our subrecipients, their vehicles are meeting their useful life and they're needing to dispose of their vehicles. It's quite an in-depth process, especially with nonprofits, to go through meeting all the federal requirements of disposing of the vehicle, releasing liens, etc. So this upcoming next May 19th, I think it is. I might have the date wrong, but I can double check for you. But we are going to be going over the vehicle disposal process. One thing that's complicated a little bit is FTA changed the disposal process, and this might be helpful to the cities and transit folks that also are disposing of transit vehicles, because this applies to you as well. The federal government changed through the bipartisan infrastructure law how they calculate vehicles and the $5,000 threshold. So it used to be that you had to reinvest your funds in another transit project. FTA stops this. So up to $5,000 starting November 15th of 2021, all vehicle disposals beyond that point, you get to keep the first $5,000. So that $5,000 doesn't get retained by FTA or the 80% or 85% or whatever of the full amount. The first 5,000 goes back to the agency, and then anything above that $5,000 gets split in the federal local match percentage, and the federal percentage goes back to FTA, not to be reinvested in vehicles. So there's a change effect of all vehicles being disposed of after November 15th. We're going to walk everybody through the general process of disposing of vehicles and answering their questions. But I just wanted to make sure you guys were aware we were still doing monthly trainings and that this was a hot topic, and to get the word out there that the program has changed a little bit.
Interesting. Okay.
Chair.
Robert?
Wendy, can you send the invite to all of us or to me or whoever's interested? Does that also apply to any equipment that was funded with FTA funds?
It does. It does. It is not just vehicles. It is federal assets. I think maybe what we could probably do is schedule something for the transit folks, because I'd rather not clog the thing up, because our processes for you guys are a little different. I think maybe what we'll do is maybe lead a discussion recipients versus 5310 and do something similar, if that makes sense. I mean, you're welcome to listen and come and join, but if you're wanting to ask questions and participate, it might be easier if we split it out, because I know there's going to be a lot of 5310 questions.
Okay.
Thank you. I am more interested in the general thing, so not just 5310.
Right. And I can send you out the page where they talk about how it's calculated differently now. So I can definitely send out the frequently asked questions about how it affects the disposal, so you guys have that. And then I'll ask our other folks to see if they can lead a discussion on how the new disposal process works for you guys.
Thank you.
All right. Any other comments? Any other announcements from the committee?
Hey, I want to thank Wendy, everybody, Didi, and Ezekias for another job well done on this 5310 allotment process. Again, thank you.
Very much so. Also, I want to thank the committee, because I know everyone, this is not easy. Every year we seem to have more and more, and going over 46 applications is not easy, especially when you're new to this. I've been on this for 20 plus years now, and it's definitely a lot easier to grade than it was before, but I know it is a lot of time. So I really do appreciate everybody taking their time out to grade and to rank these applications. It is not easy, and definitely to Wendy, to Didi, to Hezekias, and to Dylan too. I know you're new on this one. Putting together a lot of time and effort to get these graded in the evaluations. And we really do appreciate it from the committee perspective of how much easier you make it on us after evaluating to go through the process and to set up the interviews with all these nonprofits. So it really is appreciated.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone else? Okay, we are going to move on to agenda item number 9, which is adjournment. So again, I appreciate everybody's time and effort into this one, and this meeting is now adjourned for this fiscal year. Have a great day, everyone.
Have a great
Thank
day.
you.
Thanks,
Matt. Thanks,
Enjoy your days.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Should I end the meeting now?
Yes, you can end it. Jeremy.
Okay,
Thank you
alright.
so much.